Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, CCTV captures the final moments of a gangland shooting. The two victims, Eddie Lyons Jr and Ross Monaghan, who have known connections to organised crime in Scotland, were shot by a gunman in a bar in southern Spain. We'll hear from a reporter whose podcast looks at the gangland feud in Scotland. Also tonight, Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK must be war-ready during a trip to Glasgow.
I can't imagine anybody who seriously wants to be Prime Minister of this country coming to Scotland and saying that the first priority is not the safety and security of Scotland.
And we'll have all the sport with Lewis too, a new manager for Dundee. Lewis.
That's right, Laura, and it's a very familiar face indeed. Yes, Stephen Presley is back in Scottish football and he's in the hot seat at Dens Park.
And we'll speak to the presenter Banjo Beale on his new interior design challenge. Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. Two of Scotland's most high-profile underworld figures have been shot dead in a bar in the Spanish town of Fuengirola on the Costa del Sol. Ross Monaghan and Eddie Lyons Jr were both major players in the Lyons crime clan, which has a more than 20-year-long feud with the Daniel Group. The pair attended Monaghan's bar in Fuengirola on Saturday, where a masked gunman opened fire on them before fleeing the scene. Some of the incident has been caught on CCTV. It comes amid a recent gangland feud in Scotland in which 35 people have been arrested and face charges including attempted murder, fire-raising and firearms offences. Our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan is in Fuengirola and sent this report.
Monaghan's bar here at the beachfront in Fuengirola on the Costa del Sol remains closed tonight. The staff have said they're too upset to talk about what happened. Amongst other bar owners and restaurant owners around here, there's also reluctance to talk about what's happened for other reasons, presumably. And amongst holidaymakers, people who frequented Monaghan's, there's a great deal of shock from the ones I spoke to, also a great deal of relief that they weren't there when this happened. What we know is that after 11 o'clock on Saturday night, after the Champions League final, a gunman came to the bar here, shot Eddie Lyons Jr outside the bar, and then went inside the bar. A video has been broadcast in Spain of what happened next, of Ross Monaghan being pursued across the bar, being shot at point blank range and then slumping against the wall and fatally injured. Ross Monaghan and Eddie Lyons Jr were senior members of a well-known Scottish organised crime group, the Lyons family. That family has been involved in a feud with another crime group, the Daniels, for many years, but it's not known at all whether this is connected to that. It's not known yet, although there's a lot of speculation that this is connected to the ongoing gangland feud that we've seen in central Scotland in recent months. If it is, it represents a dramatic escalation in the level of violence compared to what's gone before. It would also be unprecedented, I think, because what we have here is the cold-blooded assassination, premeditated, audacious assassination of two senior crime figures in a bar in a foreign country. I don't think that's happened before. For Police Scotland, of course, this will be deeply, deeply concerning. They'll be very worried about retaliation, about revenge, and about more possible bloodshed in the weeks and months to come. David Cowan, reporting Scotland, Fuengirola.
Well, Spanish detectives have yet to confirm if the double murder on the Costa del Sol is connected to the recent violence we've seen here. Livy Haydock is host of the BBC podcast series Gangster, which looked at the feud between the Lyons and Daniels families for control of Glasgow's drugs trade. She's been speaking to Martin Geisler on BBC Scotland's Scotcast podcast, and she said there have been similar public attacks here in Scotland.
The levels of criminality, I don't think we've seen this brazen before. And so for an attack this public on Saturday to happen, it doesn't surprise me, but it makes me feel that more people need to understand about these people and characters, because this will keep happening.
Right. And I mean, there are lots of shady characters hanging about in that part of the world, right down in the Costas at the foot of
Yeah, for
Spain.
sure. Yeah.
And a lot of serious, quite heavy players from criminal organisations from all sorts of different parts of the world. But you're convinced this incident has its roots back here in Scotland, in Glasgow, are you?
Oh, I'm pretty sure, for the very fact that the Lions were out in Spain, if you follow they sort of progressed through the criminal chain, as it were, and we document that in our podcast, we sort of follow their rise, if you like. They were the sort of underdog, and then they stepped up, and then went international. And we actually interview a gentleman who's a former intelligence officer from the police, and he compares the Lions family to sort of the Premier League of criminals now.
Right, so that's how serious an operation this is. It's right up there with the biggest kind of gangsters on the planet, is
Oh,
it?
for sure. Yeah, and we discussed in the podcast also connections to the Kinahan family, which are a major organised crime family with warrants from the FBI and so on. And the Lions seem to have gone well beyond Glasgow now. And so, you know, with the criminality, their associates, there are all these bitter feuds still ongoing because they've become so personal. I mean, in one of them, one of the Lions family's children, he was 9 years old, his grave got desecrated. And then you had the shooting at the garage, then there was the shooting at Asda. You just got to kind of ask, where does this end? And, you know, who's going to be caught in the crossfire?
And you can hear more from Livy Haydock on the latest episode of Scotcast. You can find it on BBC Sounds and most other podcast platforms too. It's also on BBC iPlayer. Next tonight, the Prime Minister says a major defence review published today will move the UK's armed forces to what he called war-fighting readiness and turn the country into a battle-ready, armour-clad nation. The plans include new spending on submarines, munitions factories and nuclear warheads. Speaking at BAE Systems in Glasgow, Sir Keir said spending on defence was a top priority.
I think that security and safety of everyone in Scotland is paramount, is absolutely paramount. And I can't imagine anybody who seriously wants to be Prime Minister of this country coming to Scotland and saying that the first priority is not the safety and security of Scotland.
Well, let's speak now to Rear Admiral Dr. Chris Parry, who's a former NATO commander. Dr. Parry, a very good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. What did you make of the substance of what the Prime Minister had to say today?
Well, hello, Laura. Hello, everybody. Well, what we've seen today, I think, is a really good analysis of the strategic situation. There are some good deductions. There are even some good ideas in it, but there is absolutely no way that they're able to pay for all of these aspirations. And indeed, they're very confused about how much we're actually going to spend in future. I've likened it today really to somebody who issues a flash check, you know, buying everybody rounds and everything in the knowledge they got nothing in their bank account. And I'm afraid that's the case.
How might it play out on the global stage?
Well, I mean, I think if the Prime Minister wanted to send a message to Moscow, I think that message is it's total confusion at the moment. There are some really good things. I should stress, Laura, you know, we're increasing our nuclear submarines. That's good because they are the capital ships of the modern world. We're actually doing something about our nuclear enterprise because the warhead program was in considerable disarray, and we're actually accepting we need more munitions, longer range missiles, drones and things like that. As a shopping list, it's absolutely brilliant in some ways, but there's no coherence in relation to the way we're going to put everything together. And as I said, how we're going to pay for it, and nobody's really sort of thought about that.
So he came to Glasgow making this announcement at BAE Systems on the Clyde. What might it mean for Scotland and Scottish jobs?
Well, I think it should be good news for Scotland because you've got the skills there. You've got a very good track record of building frigates, of course. And you've got the Clyde submarine base where most of these submarines, if not all of them, are going to be based. And as long as they actually deliver on the promise to say we're going to have a fleet size of 12 attack submarines, that's very good. But here's the catch, though, Laura. We're saying that they're going to enter service in the late 2030s. That's like saying to Hitler in 1938, look, we're going to really get ourselves well armed, but could you wait until 1950 until we're ready? So a lot of this is post-dated. Right now we have crises in Europe. We have threatening sort of nations like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and they need to be told right now, we are getting ready very quickly indeed. It's not a question of saying we'll wait till the next parliament. We need action now, to tell you the truth.
Just briefly, how do you think defence plays with voters?
Well, I think, over the course of the last 70 years, we've actually got very complacent about the threats out there. We've had, obviously, American top cover. We've got our own nuclear deterrent, and we think that keeps us safe. But on a daily basis now, we're seeing almost a phony war from Russia and China. They're nibbling around the edges. We're seeing our underwater cables interfered with. We're getting sudden explosions. We're getting all sorts of subversion, espionage, and things like that. And that's indicative, really, of what we call grey zone warfare. Now, all it takes is for President Putin to think that his regime is in trouble right now, and he'll lash out. He'll lash out against somebody. He'll use the pretext of European nations being involved in Ukraine and trying to defend Ukraine as a pretext. He's already threatened the United Kingdom with nuclear weapons. And people in Scotland say, oh, we don't want to be a target, don't want to be, because we've got Faz Lane there. I've got to say to everybody, I'm sorry about this, but you are a target already, whether you have nuclear submarines there or not.
Dr. Chris Parry, we're really grateful for your time tonight. Many thanks for joining us. And thank you too for joining us on tonight's News at 7. More to come in the programme, including the ancient archaeological site in Orkney, which has moved a step closer to reopening to the public.
Turning wet and windy overnight tonight, and the rest of the week is unsettled, blustery showers. A full forecast coming up later in the programme.
Now, a new documentary on the Lockerbie disaster has heard powerful testimony from the families and loved ones of some of the victims, many of whom are speaking for the first time. On December the 21st, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 was blown up over the town. It was the UK's largest crime scene and remains the deadliest terrorist attack on British soil. Tim Berman, whose family live in Scotland, was on the plane flying to spend Christmas in New York with his girlfriend Rose. I spoke to Tim's sister Rachel Robertson earlier about the family's loss.
Tim was a very gentle, kind boy, and the youngest in the family. Had 3 older sisters, which was definitely a bit of a challenge at times growing up. Very smart, very passionate about his outdoor activities. He ran, he climbed, he raced, and way ahead of his time in kind of understanding what we were doing to the planet around us, and had concerns even then. And I think if that was his future, I think that's the direction he would have ended up going.
How important then is it, though, to be able to share him and his story, what he meant to you, and to be part of this TV series to share that with other people?
It's very important. I mean, it was a very hard decision amongst the family to get involved and to step out and tell your personal story. But sadly, our parents are no longer with us. And, suddenly we realised we're all ageing, and all the friends, family of all the people that were lost on that flight are, in a few years, not going to be around to tell the story. And it was like, this is an important story. This needs to be told. And
you watched some video of him, didn't you,
yes,
as part of that? Tell us about that.
That was the first time I've ever managed to do it. I knew it was there, but it was just a place it was too difficult to go. But it was lovely. I mean, it was just so true of him and his character and his sense of fun and his talent at mimicry. And it was joyful to sit there and be in the room again with him.
My name is Gladys Pratt. I'm the head of the flower arranging activities for the Women's Institute's Eastern District. My chief interests outside of work centre around sport. Chiefly, I sort of try to arrange it that Any free time I get that I'm not here, I try to get out and do something, usually running, living fairly near to Richmond Park.
So has it been a positive experience being part of this series?
Yes.
And Rose as well.
Yeah.
His girlfriend is also featured.
It's been hard and continues to be so. But that's just a kind of validation of how well the story's been told, that it, we still can go back and be touched by the telling of it. But no, it's been very important to step up and speak about what happened. Yeah.
Well, it's a privilege to hear from you today and hear more of your family story, and we look forward to seeing that on screen as well. Thank you so much for coming in, Rachel. Really nice to see you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And you can watch Lockerbie at 9 o'clock tomorrow on BBC Two and also on the BBC Scotland channel. It'll be available on iPlayer as well from 10 p.m. tonight. Right, let's get a roundup now of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. Families of those killed in an RAF Chinook helicopter crash in 1994 say they're launching legal action against the Ministry of Defence for not ordering a public inquiry. A 30-year-old man has been arrested after a serious assault in Inverness on Sunday. Police arrived at a property yesterday evening where 2 people were injured. Workers at Scottish Water have gone on strike after rejecting the company's latest pay offer. Members from 3 unions will walk out for 7 days until Sunday. And a new train service from Stirling to London is set to launch next year. Lumo, which is part of First Group, will run 4 return services a day with 3 on Sundays. And for more information on all of these stories, scan the QR code there for you on the screen now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there's more there for you, including the latest on the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election. Now, a community group in Orkney say they're on track to reopen one of Scotland's most important ancient archaeological sites to the public after securing National Lottery support. The Tomb of Eagles had to close during the pandemic, and since then efforts have been made to get the site open. Here's David Deldy.
You don't have to look far in Orkney to find historic sites with international significance. Over 5,000 years old, the Tomb of the Eagles certainly fits that bill. It was found way back in 1958.
It's a piece of history that's nowhere else in the world at the end of the day. It's part of Orkney. It's part of Orkney's heritage at the end of the day. So it's really important and vital to the local community, for the interest, and it will bring people here to South Ronaldsay, which will be fantastic.
Well, it's hoped that the purchase could go through in the next few months, meaning that the visitor centre and the tomb itself could be open before the end of the year. The long-term aim to build a replica tomb, meaning that those that can't access that famous tunnel could get a similar experience to folk that can. David Deldy, reporting Scotland, Orkney.
Still to come, weather with Christopher, and we talk Scotland's Home of the Year with judge and designer Banjo Beale. But first, let's get the sport. Lewis is here.
Thanks, Laura. Hello there. A familiar face is back in Scottish football. Former Scotland defender Stephen Pressley, who is the new manager of Dundee. The 51-year-old hasn't managed the club for 6 years, but will return to the dugout at Dens Park for the start of the new season. Pressley replaces Tony Docherty, who was sacked by Dundee at the end of the campaign after steering the club to 10th place in the Premiership. Well, Pressley had a successful career as a player for the likes of Hearts, Dundee United, Celtic and Rangers, and this is his career path since hanging up his boots. He started out at Falkirk, the club he finished up with as a player, before moving south of the border where he had spells with Coventry City, Fleetwood Town and Carlisle United. There was also a brief stint in Cyprus in there. But most recently, he has been at Brentford as head of individual development with the Premier League side. Pressley is currently on a family holiday, so we can't hear from the new man in charge, but the club say he's already working on recruiting new players. Now, Don Cowie will remain in charge at Ross County after the club's relegation from the Premiership, and his coaching team has been bolstered by the addition of one of their former managers, John Robertson, over there. He joins the coaching staff at the Dingwall club, who he had a 4-month stint in charge of back in 2005. Robertson has also managed Hearts, Livingston and Inverness Caledonian Thistle too. Scotland head coach Melissa Andreatta says her team are a work in progress, but has urged fans to keep the faith as they attempt to put some points on the board in the Nations League. The Scots lost 1-0 to Austria in Hampden in Andreatta's first game in charge. That result made it 5 straight defeats But the new woman in charge is full of positivity and wants to end a disappointing campaign on a high.
What I want to see is a team that takes another step forward, that we're on the front foot at the right moments, we're happy to keep the ball and have more control as well, but don't lose that verticality as well in our game, but identify moments where we can do that and when we need to change point and keep the ball. And same with our defending, when we can win it closer, when we need to protect our goal as well, and just manage those moments and identify those moments. But again, there's going to be moments in the match where it doesn't go right, but that's where we are right now. But it's not losing faith and know that we've taken one step forward and we just need to keep taking that step forward.
To tennis now, and Cameron Norrie is out of the French Open, losing to three-time winner Novak Djokovic in straight sets. Now to rugby, and Glasgow Warriors forward Henko Venter, who will leave the club in the summer, admits that he wanted to stay at Scotstoun, but says that Scottish Rugby's strategy to sign fewer foreign players for their two professional clubs means he wasn't offered a new deal. The 33-year-old South African was given an emotional send-off after his side's URC quarter-final win against Stormers. They take on Leinster in Dublin in the semis. While there is no block on Glasgow and Edinburgh signing foreign players, the governing body are trying to field more homegrown talent.
It's just over the whole new rule of Scottish rugby and the foreigners. That's not that they wanted more Scottish players, and I understand that's their plan forward, and I respect it. I know I am not Scottish, and so yeah, it's a privilege to be here and to give back to the club and to the country. And yeah, if they make their plans, they have a will to make Scotland rugby better, and yeah, I hope they succeed in it, and truly believe it will be nice to see Scotland rugby just flourish more than it has been flourishing lately. It's bad, and I didn't like it, but it's rugby. Like, you don't take anything personal.
And for more, head to the BBC Sports Scotland website, where you can read about the continuing search for a new manager at Rangers, with sporting director Kevin Thelwell saying it should be complete in the coming days. And of course, Motherwell, the other club in the top flight, still looking for a manager as well, Laura, so plenty to keep me busy.
Indeed, it's never ending, isn't it?
Always.
Lewis, thank you.
Cheers.
Right, in about an hour's time, we will find out who's won this year's Scotland's Home of the Year. The 6 regional finalists will go head-to-head, with only one home being crowned champion. Banjo Beale is, of course, one of the judges. Not only is he tasked with choosing the creme de la creme of Scottish homes, he's also now being tasked with turning around a former grand Scottish home into a hotel for a brand new series here on BBC Scotland. Earlier, I asked him just how big a challenge he's taking on.
She's rough around the edges. There's probably an understatement. It's crumbling. There's even salt coming through the walls, and I don't even know what that is. Good if I need a little bit of seasoning, but there's plants growing through the walls, which is, I've always talking about bringing the outside in. So finally, like, I've got a house where, you know, the outside's fully in. She's a rough one.
OK, so quite the project, but you've also got the logistical issue of it being so remote, and a tiny boat is the only way to access it. How do you get around those practicalities?
Well, I think must be the world's smallest ferry. It kind of fits just a couple of people, so not much room for building supplies. So we have to be kind of knacky what we bring on. Then there's no roads on the island. So currently we've got a little, cart that we're wheeling to get to the big house. So right now I'm feeling fitter than ever, but I'm also really tired, and I'm ready to kind of find another solution. But right now it's kind of, horse and cart, worse than a horse and cart.
Wow. So it sounds like a labour of love. Why? What drew you to this building, and who are you hoping it's for at the end?
I think we fell in love with the romance of it. I love Ulva. It's such a special place. It's a community-owned island now. There's 10 adult residents that live here, and this house has been sitting abandoned for the last 7 years since the community owned it. It's been really hard to watch, and I don't think anyone's been stupid or brave enough to kind of take it on. And it's kind of just a massive project. And hopefully, if we can restore the house, we'll kind of bring a bit more life back to the island. And hopefully, hopefully make it a little bit bougie, like a little bit grand, but it's kind of rough luxury is how I'm billing it. It's kind of like glamping, but in a really nice old house. So it gives me permission for it to be rough around the edges.
Listen, while we've got you here, it's a big day, it's a big night for Scotland's Home of the Year, the final tonight. No spoilers because it's coming on after us. But how has this season been for you?
Just when you think they've ran out of houses, they just come through and they have really upped the ante this year, and they're so very different. There are so many lovely homes this year. That was genuinely, I would say, the hardest decision that we've ever made for a winner, because honestly, any one of them could have been the winner, and I had no idea walking into which one was my winner, so I even surprised myself.
Oh, fabulous. Well, we can't wait to see it. And it has been lovely as ever to talk to you, Banjo. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And you can find out who the winner is of Scotland's Home of the Year. That's tonight, 8:30 on BBC One Scotland and, of course, on iPlayer too. Let's find out what is happening with the weather. It's looking maybe deceptively nice in some of these pictures.
Yes, probably, I'd say so.
A bit worse is to come.
New month, new season, but that warmest and sunniest spring on record we've just had, long gone, distant memory. This week, really unsettled. But
Scottish summer.
Yes, you're right. Let's take a look at some of the pictures that have come into us today, because probably the best day of the week, weather-wise, in terms of sunshine at least. Lovely picture there from Edinburgh. Rather grey skies in Aberdeen. And imagine if that was your garden. That's not too bad. Won't look like that tomorrow. Pretty wet and windy. Let's take a look at what's happening, because we've got low pressure ruling the roost this week, and that means it's going to be wet at times, quite blustery, certainly windy. That is our supplier of showers, and whilst we do have some little weather fronts into the south, it's really just this one that's going to bring the persistent rain overnight tonight. So that sweeps eastwards after dark for most, bringing a spell of heavy and persistent rain, some strong to gale force winds too. And that means it will be a blustery start to the day tomorrow. Now, there will be some morning sunshine around for the likes of Edinburgh, Dundee and Aberdeen, but you can see west of here, frequent showers, and those will just increase in number through the course of the day. And certainly around the west coast, through the Minches and up towards the far north, we're likely to see gale force gusts, and it will be windy throughout the day. Those winds driving the showers eastwards as we head through towards lunchtime and the afternoon, perhaps even the odd rumble of thunder through parts of Aberdeenshire. Temperatures disappointing. Looking beyond tomorrow to Wednesday, we still have low pressure situated to the north, and once again it will be windy from the west. Once again it will be showery. In between the showers, a bit of sunshine to be had, but the showers, well, not particularly long gaps between them, I should say. Temperatures once again 12 to 15 Celsius. The black arrows there indicating wind gusts, so once again a windy day with gales around the north coast and the Northern Isles. On Thursday, one of those occluded fronts just trying to push in towards the south with some cloud and rain, but elsewhere, once again, bright skies and showers. And little change really as we head through towards Saturday and Sunday. That low pressure is filling and pulling away, so probably Sunday, the brightest and driest day of the weekend, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is Friday, still showery at times. The winds a good bit lighter. This is Saturday, once again, some showers or longer spells of rain. The winds coming in from the northwest, never a warm direction. So, all told, the week ahead is unsettled. You can see that on the outlook there. Temperatures below average for the time of year, some showers or longer spells of rain, and some high winds too. That's the forecast for now.
Showers always get me thinking to the garden cushions and
yes,
running out, pulling them
Put
in.
them away.
Yeah, I think I will. Chris, thank you. And thank you for joining us once again tonight. Sarah McMullen's here tomorrow night at 7. Have a lovely evening from all of us. Bye-bye.